Dominic Ilbury, you are no stranger to Grapple Worlds. Welcome to the podcast for your second outing for Grapple Worlds 2, which will happen on Saturday, the 28th of March, over at Kasim Stadium. How are you feeling about the whole thing?
I'm excited. I've been over to 10th Planet MK the other day just for their opening and got to talk to the guys there. And super enthusiastic to compete and try and show a bit more of my talent than I did last time. So that's the goal.
Good. Okay, well, tell us about last time. Yeah, tell us.
So last time was only my second super fight. I think that's what we call them now. Invitation or whatever. And I went against Mo, and I'm sorry, Mo, if you're listening to this, I forgot your surname. But he was super nice dude. We'd had a bit of back and forth, just a sort of playful banter leading up to it. And I put on what was really a sort of a shell of my own performance, and I got triangled probably in about a minute and a half. So I was a bit disappointed with it. But I've been back competing again recently, doing more competitions and trying to get my head back into it all. But yeah, it's a balance for sure in life.
Nice. Now you're back in competing. Why do you compete, and what makes it so important in your jiu-jitsu career?
It's a really good question, because I didn't compete much at white belt, and largely because I was terrified. I only started martial arts at 33, 34. And I'd been playing rugby and football team games before that. And although I've always been quite active with sports, you're on your own, or you feel like you're on your own going out into the mat. And I actually feel even though it's a solo game and it's not a team, the support you get from people, the sort of way everyone rallies around you and boosts you up and elevates you, just you want to compete more and more. And I had an excellent time competing at blue belt. I won quite a lot of competitions. Purple belt's been hard, but I think what gets me to do it is sort of that, I don't know, that inner child that you have, who was sort of bullied and struggled and all of that, and just sort of feeling comfortable putting yourself into a position of conflict. I think I find that really rewarding. And even if you don't win, and I want to win, of course, but if I perform, which is the main thing, being able to sort of hold that memory and no one can take that away from you. I love that feeling.
Nice. Now, you mentioned all of those team sports. Did you kind of play lots of matches, or was it mostly kind of training scenario?
Yeah, I played year on year sort of pub league and things like that, and did some rugby sevens tournaments and a few bits and bobs. And so it was relatively competitive, but I just think it was never for me. And if I'd found jiu-jitsu sooner, it was my love of mixed martial arts and watching it and not really wanting to get punched in the face at 30 something that made me find jiu-jitsu.
Nice. I like that. And obviously competing, you're no stranger to competing throughout your life with the team sports, but equally now jiu-jitsu. How do you go about celebrating a win? If you do celebrate wins?
I definitely celebrate. So I'm a terrible one for signing up for competitions and things that are it's more of a challenging weight class. So I've got like a couple of kilos to lose. So I'll be very careful, cautious, healthy leading up to it, and very clean. So I usually like to go out and celebrate with my teammates or with family, friends, having a couple of drinks, some food, bad food probably. And just, enjoying myself, I guess, and then getting straight back to it as soon as I can, just having that little burn off and feeling like you've earned it, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. You've mentioned food. I need to go and cook some food for me for dinner. Whilst this is not a kind of time based, what sort of, in inverted commas, bad food do you indulge in? Is it cheese? Is it burgers? Is it pizza? Is it chicken?
Yeah, pizza. Pizza or burgers. I mean, like, I am addicted to venison generally, so I try and eat a high protein diet. Nice. But yeah, there's a place in Bicester near us where they do I feel like I'm shouting them out here. Not me, but they do the most awesome burgers. A place called Monty's. So there they go, free advertising. Nice. But we go there all the time, me and my other half, and we have a great time there. So yeah.
Good. Well, maybe the shout out gets you a free meal after you win Grapple Worlds 2, maybe.
Hopefully.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Just trying to get the mix of lifestyle and, you know, living a real life that isn't necessarily the shape of a professional athlete, but balancing life, training, work, family, friends, partners, and pets. Mentioning pets, you mentioned before we started recording about your pup. Tell us about that.
So his name's Barney. He's a 42 kilogram boxer. He's just bonkers. So he gets walked every day, which even when it's pretty rubbishy weather like this, you know, you have to be committed to that and taking them out. You know, I don't have kids, but, you know, I do have that commitment, and you've got to constantly be thinking about that and dedicated to it. And I suppose it's like anything, really. You've just got to balance life. And dogs give you so much anyway. You know, I always find that if you're down, they look after you. They've got like a completely unconditional love to you, which is amazing.
Nice. Now, like many dog owners and dogs themselves, that they tend to look alike, similar. Is this the case for you, Dom?
Yeah, I do get that remarked a little bit. I'd like to think it's because I'm sort of, you know, we're both muscly build and look great, but actually it's because we have a goofy look on our face most of the time. But yeah, apparently I look a bit like the dog.
Okay, that's your words, not mine, Dom. Thank you for sharing that.
I know, I'm aware of that.
Okay, so you're a purple belt, the second outing for Grapple Worlds 2. How are you preparing?
So I've got a competition next weekend. I'm aware that the guy I'm up against, Mike Clark, is a brown belt. So he's technically higher level. I'm looking forward to that. But the competition I'm doing next week is Grappling Industries 1 at brown belt. So I get a chance to sort of get familiar with that and, you know, see how that performance is. And I guess I'm just trying to be very clean and keeping my sort of weight down, staying healthy, training a lot. You know, I'm sort of training 4 times a week, 5 times a week, that sort of thing. And just getting inspiring rounds, but trying to avoid getting injured, which is the thing when you're a bit older. It's, you know, fingers get bent back, whatever it might be, you know.
Yes. And it does take a little bit longer to recover sometimes. But talking about kind of keeping well and safe, have you had any significant injuries in your jiu-jitsu time? Now you're a purple belt.
Yeah, I have. So when I was a white belt, I did Brighton Open and I blew my knee out. I went in for a and in the gi, so I don't like competing in the gi that much. And as I sort of went to turn the corner on the takedown, my knee just gave way and I blew my meniscus and got some micro tears in my LCL and ACL. And I couldn't couldn't work out why my leg wouldn't work because obviously all the adrenaline's going. So I had to have surgery on that. And there's been you always get the little injuries, ankles and toes and fingers and things, but neck, 2 slip discs, but that's about it.
Good. Well, good, not good. But having such a significant injury in your very early white belt years didn't put you off the game.
I've got to be honest, being sort of the bigger weight class, so I'm 90 kilos-ish with a strong wind, and being a bigger weight class, you start white belt because you're more powerful than everyone with a top game. Yeah. And I literally had going into competitions when I was a white belt where if I end up on my back, I've lost basically.
Yeah.
And because I'd blown my knee out and I was prepping for surgery, so I wanted to carry on training because I was really enjoying it. And I was about a year into my jiu-jitsu journey then. I just had to learn to play guard because I couldn't put pressure through my knee.
Yeah.
And when I recovered and I got my blue belt, I found I was submitting everyone from the bottom. And, you know, it was a complete transition to my whole game. And now I'm very well-rounded. You know, I think whilst it was a thing of adversity, I don't think I would have learned to have the rounded game that I have without that.
Yeah.
So just forced in. you know, I had no choice. There was no top game anymore.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a blue belt, Dom, and I'm really pleased you got the memo about playing top game right from the very beginning. I didn't. I'm only just learning that now, kind of 3.5 years in. But obviously, it's a very clear option. But it didn't come as a, you know, out of the can for me as a white belt. Oh well.
No, but that's kind of a thing I noticed for a lot of women in jiu-jitsu. It's hard because you're the hammer and a nail analogy. You know, men are often physically bigger and stronger, and therefore you're probably going to end up on your back a lot more. And you know, some women I train with are some of the most technical people I know because of that, because they don't have that power attribute, and they usually end up with these really vicious and nasty back games. You know, leg locks.
Yeah, I've heard about a number of leg locks, and obviously they're very prevalent, certainly in invitationals. Do any of the kind of matchups, have any of them stood out for you, kind of that you've seen so far for Grapple Worlds 2 that you're interested in watching?
Yeah, I mean, I'm invested in the ladies one because I know and train with Zoe sometimes, and you know, she's awesome. You know, I remember being at a training camp in Sardinia, and she was competing on I can't remember what competition it was, but I was watching it on my phone, sat in a restaurant, because I found out she had made it to the semi-finals, and then she made it to the finals as a purple belt. So, you know, I was super excited to see how she did there. And that's a pretty cool match. And of course, you've then got people like Shane Curtis. You know, he's impressive to watch compete, and he puts on a really good show. And then, you know, there's going to be a whole heap of people that you've probably never heard of who will do some really cool stuff. And that's the beautiful thing with grappling, is like, you know, people are coming up all the time. Different people perform in different ways. So even when I've had my match, I will be sat down at the table watching everyone else compete and enjoying it.
Good. We will come back to the conversation about watching the show in a moment. This is the Grapple Worlds podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Go and check out all of the sponsors for Grapple Worlds 2. They are Zebra, Soul Taker Fightwear, Grapple App, Pure Recharge, 10th Planet Banbury, and 10th Planet Milton Keynes. Go and follow all of them over on Instagram. And as always, check out the clips on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, go and buy your tickets to join us at Kasim Stadium for Grapple Worlds 2 on Saturday, the 28th of March. It will be fantastic. Today, I'm having a conversation with Dominic Ilbury. So, Dom, you mentioned before we started recording that you've got a number of tables and you've got friends and family coming along to support you at Grapple Worlds 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, after you've your match, are you on quite early in the schedule?
I think so. Yeah, I hope so, because I think I'm towards the end of the prelims, from what I gather. So I mean, I get a chance to sort of watch the show and probably have a beer, which I'll enjoy. So yeah.
Fab. And you mentioned about bringing your partner, your friends, and your family along. Talk to us about how easy it is to encourage them to come and support.
Well, my other half, we've got a bit of a thing, so I really hope this doesn't play badly for this, which is she's come to watch me compete three times, maybe twice, and I lost both times. So this will be the third time that she comes. She doesn't come to many of my events. So I'm hopeful that she's not become a curse, but I'm sure she hasn't. But
third time lucky, you're going to win this one.
I have tried to get her into jiu-jitsu, but she's a podiatrist and she just can't stand the feet creep her out.
Fair enough. We've all got things that you know, make us feel not quite so comfortable. But of course, those of us that do train jiu-jitsu absolutely love it. There are things about it that we don't like, but having said that, we'll carry on with your audience participation and kind of bringing people along. But what do you not like about jiu-jitsu, Dom?
I mean, I think just in terms of jiu-jitsu, obviously there's like moves and stuff that you hate and you go, oh, I hate it when I get smothered or whatever it is. But Ultimately, I think the big thing that I don't like, and I'm not going to mention any specific gyms, but is sort of what you can get as quite a culty, isolating atmosphere. I mean, you know, I try and cross train. I travel quite a lot, and I try and cross train at different gyms, and most places are incredibly welcome. But you will sometimes get the odd one where it's, you know, you've got to drink the Kool-Aid, and you know, I think that can be a real shame. But I think that's the case with so many, any sports or any hobbies, is you'll always get people who let the ego creep in, you know.
Yeah. On the flip side, what do you most love about jiu-jitsu?
We've sort of talked about this a little bit as a camp, actually, like just in the carb coming back from competitions. And I think it's as I said before, it's like you're competing solo, but it feels like more of a team than anything else. When you go to a competition, you've got your friends coming to watch you, you've got your teammates coming to watch you, everyone's cheering. If you get submitted in 30 seconds, no one's sat there going, how terrible you are at this. You know, that everyone is supporting you. And I think that's the best thing about jiu-jitsu, is it's got this real thing of it's real. And I think that's the big thing, is like, you can talk, you can say, I'm really good at this thing, I'm really good at that thing. But the fact is, there's people in your gym that you know you will never submit because they are so much better than you. And other people look at you in that way. And I think there's such a real aspect to it that it creates that sort of respect for one another. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. The respect is massive. And whilst you were talking then, I think, you know, a number of us don't appreciate what others see in our skills and abilities in jiu-jitsu. And that's quite a nice kind of place to be, because it just makes us work harder towards the things that we think we're not very good at, or continue refining the things that we might be quite good at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found it when I was sort of starting out. I had a friend of mine who's a brown belt that should have a black belt years and years ago, but sort of it's a bit of a journeyman. And I learned everything from him. Like, my style is like him. And, you know, when I roll, people were sort of going, oh, you do all the same submissions as Carlos, you know? And it's like, yeah, because he just basically took me under his wing when I was a white belt. And I learned everything from him. My style reflects him, you know, and that's the ultimate flattery, right? You know, is the whole way that I do this thing that I'm really passionate about reflects his personality, his attributes, you know?
Yeah. I like the fact that you said that. And what comes to mind is I also travel around and train at lots of different gyms. And I have noticed there does seem to be a kind of mat style at all these different gyms. Have you noticed that as well, where a number of players at the same gym have a similar kind of game, or they're really, really good at this one thing?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I mean, I think there's certain gyms that you go to in the UK where if you go and train, then, you know, I mean, 10th Planet's a great example. They're all going to have a good rubber guard, right? That's just, they're going to do something with, you know, like a Hindu Latine or something, crackhead control or whatever it is that they've got as a 10th Planet word for it. It's always going to be that. And the same as, you know, if you're up at the guys at RGA, for example, you know they're going to have good fundamentals, quite grimy, strong jiu-jitsu, but it's less flashy than that sort of thing. And you get these sort of refinements to it, I think. We found it with our gym, where we had a leg lock instructor come in who's just a phenom purple belt, who, you know, he just learns like that. And he taught all the white belts how to footlock everyone who's a higher belt. And we had this like invasion of white belt footlockers for about 6 months, until everyone else went, I need to learn this stuff, please show me, you know. So it's super interesting how that sort of sweeps through a gym as well.
And there's all sorts of styles and trends that you see kind of going around in seminars and various other bits. I think it's quite an interesting, flexible, dynamic sport to be a part of. Have you managed to encourage anyone that doesn't previously train jiu-jitsu or martial arts to start training?
I've tried. I think tried is the main word. I've got people along to like a trial class or whatever, But I do have to sort of remember back, and you'll probably have this as well, is
Mm.
my first ever jiu-jitsu class felt like someone, you know, that sort of sketch where they break a stick in two, throw it in the middle, and they're like, fight to the death. That's kind of
Yes.
how it felt. And, you know, I was up against another big bald dude, and I came back. He didn't. And that's all it is. And then I just
Yeah.
kept coming back, and eventually I got much better at this thing I was getting whooped at, you know. And I think that's all it is. And there's nothing different in me, or okay, there's some super athletes out there, don't get me wrong, but in just the rest of us of jiu-jitsu, there's nothing special about us apart from we keep coming back, we keep training, we keep learning. And a lot of people who go once and they go, yeah, I'm not into that bag, you know, that's not for me.
Yeah. But we were kind of talking before the recording about you encouraging maybe some of the white and blue belts to compete. How has that kind of gone? If you've not necessarily brought people into the, you know, the martial arts arena, competition for, you know, people you might take under your wing.
Yeah, I think just really the big thing that I'd say to them and to anyone else is just give it a go. I mean, it is a higher intensity than just training or sparring, but you know, you are going to be relatively safe, and it's a great test of personal fortitude. You know, and as much as, and I find this when I compete, which is I can remember tapping to gassing more or less when I was like a white belt, and I went against this kid in an absolute division who was amazing, way better than me. And he took my back, and I felt myself give up. And
Wow.
I went to this whole thing, and I went, I can walk away from this and paint that however it was. No one else saw me give up, but I will always know that I gave up. And I don't want that feeling ever again. So I'm not giving up again like that. And I think that's the thing that you can't really explain to people about what competing is it's the truest form of understanding yourself and what you're actually capable of, you know, putting yourself through it, whether you win or lose. The fact you actually turn up, and the number of competitions I go to, you know, I did one in the summer where we had two guys in my division who turned up, very well thought of Masters 1 athletes, and I turned up being 40 years old and knew what I was in for, and everyone else didn't turn up. There was 5 people who didn't turn up because they'd seen their records on Smooth Comp and panicked and quit. You know, and that's it.
I think all of this conversation echoes the fact that to start jiu-jitsu, you need some level of resilience, but to continue training jiu-jitsu, you gain and learn so much more resilience to continue building your game for a much longer period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to have that, and you have to have that willingness to learn as well and adapt. You know, if you keep, there's a guy in my gym who's like, well, the best black belt no one's ever heard of, and he will get you with a load of weird baseball bat chokes and stuff in NOGI, and he'll do it to you 5 or 6 times in one round, the same thing, and then afterwards he'll sit down with you and explain why you're falling for that, and, you know, what it is and how to stop it and how to do it, and give you all that knowledge for free. But he will do it again and again and again, and you will react the same way until he teaches you.
I mean, that's a fantastic way of learning. My heart sank a bit because I've been caught time and time again with the same submission. And so that wasn't a surprise when you were saying that. But to be able to learn from someone that is so good at it, and, you know, to kind of start filling the gaps in our own games is just a great thing. Now, you compete and you take part in super fights. What, from your perspective, is the difference? Because you mentioned the intensity for competing, but what's so different about super fights?
Super fights are fun. Competing isn't so much. I think it just depends. Like, you can get, when you're competing, you've got to bear in mind that you're going to give it your all, but you might have 5 matches. And you've got to play this game for that guy or that strategy for this person, and then you watch on the other mat the other guy compete, and you go, oh, I'm gonna have to watch out for the whatever. It's far more strategic. Whereas I think when you have, this sort of super fight type thing, you're coming out to music, which is kind of fun and enjoyable. And I love music. So for me, that's like, a really nice thing. You're there to put on a show. People have actually paid their hard-earned money to watch rather than being dragged along.
Yep.
And there's like a whole show and, ceremony to it that makes it real fun. And I think that was the first thing. I did one up in North Wales as my first one. And I had to have a real chat with myself before I walked out. It was one of those things where everything in me is like, we don't need to do this right now. We drove all the way up to North Wales. We can just watch everyone else. Let's not compete against this terrifying looking dude. And then I had a chat with myself, and it was like, you just come out and you're like, no, there's cool music going. This is going to be fun. Loads of people are watching. Yep. It's entertaining, and that's what you're putting on as a show.
Yeah. I must admit, Grapple Worlds one, there were so many fantastic bits. I thought I was, going to leave before the end. But actually, just, match after match, I'm like, oh, the music, oh, the excitement. Because it is exciting. It was just relentless, like you say, fun and excitement right the way through. And the crowd didn't diminish either. It just got stronger and stronger, and more people were kind of coming to watch, which was just amazing. And of course, Gavin hosting and the gold glitter at the end, which I do remember. I'm hoping he's going to turn up in a spangly jacket again. We will see.
I think it's guaranteed that he'll turn up in a spangly jacket. If you know Gavin, he likes the attention. But yeah, and I thought last time around the quintet was amazing, and I think a lot of people got really invested into like that sort of. There was a bit of a heated rivalry, and it was really cool to watch. I mean, even my other half, who really does get bored watching jiu-jitsu, was like, "Wow, look at the size of those dudes! This is going to be great fun,"
I'm feeling excited. We're a couple of months out, but the build up no doubt will increase ever more. What is your training schedule? What are you going to do differently to win this match at Grapple Worlds 2, Dom?
Well, I don't want to give too much away because my opponent might be listening, watching, whatever. But I think the main thing for me is I train 4 times a week. I'm upping my sparring where possible. I'm training at a couple other gyms as well now and again. And for me, I'm just trying to stay active, stay competitive, stay injury free. I've had, as you do, you're carrying nagging injuries all the time. In terms of my game, I know what I'm good at. I know what my strategy is. But I can adapt my strategy to someone else's weaknesses, and that's one of my biggest strengths. Is I'm quite well rounded. I've got a good DAS, anaconda, kimura, leg locks. So I've got some pretty meaty, strong stuff which can win a competition quite easily. So
fantastic. I'm tempted to invite you to share some words for your opponent. I don't know. I'm not really sure I want to light the touch paper right now, but if you want to share anything, Dom, you're welcome to.
Well, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's something to do with me knowing the 10th Planet guys. But they seem to be giving me like the nicest guys in jiu-jitsu as my first couple of Grapple Worlds. Mo was just the sweetest, nice guy. And Mike, I saw him at the British Open, and he came straight up to me and shook my hand. Nice. I've got a bit of an embarrassing story about Mike, actually, which is...
Oh, come on. We can share this. We're here for the embarrassing stories.
So Mike is a Guess Who style character, bald guy. So much like myself, he's bald, beard, big guy, quite easy to identify. And his name's Michael Clark. I went at Blue Belt and had an absolute war against someone who was 41, same belt, same height, same everything, called Michael Clark. And when the guys at 10th Planet offered me the match, I went, hell yeah, we had a war last time. That sounds amazing. Like, I'd really enjoy that. And then he reached out to me and said, hey, I hear we've got a match, best of luck, brother, sort of thing, because he's that guy. Yeah. And I said, yeah, hopefully it goes my way like the last time. And he's like, what are you on about? We've never competed. And I was like, yeah, blue belt. We had a great time, man. You nearly finished me with the arm bar. In fact, you popped my arm twice, and then I won with a footlock. And he said, no, that's not me. And then I looked on my smooth comp and found Michael Clark with an E. Same everything. So I accidentally accepted a match against Michael Clark as a mistaken identity. But, they both look like Guess Who bald guys. And yeah, we'll have fun. I think he's quite grimy and gritty. Apparently he doesn't tap to anything. Nearly had his heel ripped off or something in the last one. So guess to beat him, I'm probably gonna have to put him to sleep.
Okay, there we go. Mike, you're invited. Dom, thank you so much for sharing your time and just your whole ethic around training, competing, and taking part in super fights. I wish you all the luck and very much looking forward to seeing you on the mats at Grapple Worlds 2 on Saturday, the 28th of March. Go and get your tickets over on grappleworlds.com. Thank you, Dom.
No, thanks, Lou. And if anyone wants to follow me, I'm at Dominic Did What on Instagram. And we're also sponsoring the event of Automotivate, which is my company. So if you need a vehicle, leasing, anything like that, just search Automotivate and we'll be happy to help. So thanks, Lou. Appreciate having you on here.
You're welcome. Links will be in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell your friends about this show and any matches coming up that these guys are on. The right Mike Clark and obviously the very right Dominic Ilbury. Thank you again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Grapple Worlds podcast.